We connected?
No, not yet. Just a second.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we are.
Nearly.
Okay.
It's setting
So,
up. Okay, I think we are on.
okay, wonderful. Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Madhuresh, and I'm a national convener of National Alliance of People's Movements. And I welcome you all on behalf of Indian Alliance Paris. Indian Alliance Paris is a group of individuals, students, professionals based here in France and some other parts of the world who came in existence when the anti-CAA protests were happening in the country. And a number of them who have been somewhat active thinking about what's going on in the country, but at the same time, many who had no prior experience of any political engagement, they felt really pained at the way things were going on in the country. And that's when I think across Europe, a number of groups came into existence. There are at least 20 or 30 cities in Europe today where young students and professionals who have formed groups and who are trying to organize around issues of rising fascism in the country, in India, or organizing around trying to, when the COVID happened, they organized and mobilized resources for humanitarian help, or when there is something happening like during Delhi riots, then they tried and intervene and try and provide relief and make sure that things can be made better. So there is a growing concern around that. Indian Alliance Paris is one such group based in Paris. Its members are also in France and then some elsewhere as well. It's also trying to reach out to groups in France and to make sure that there is growing concern about what's going on in the country. There is mainstream media reporting about it. And I think there is a need for more to come out. Not the only happiest story, but what's going on in the country at the moment. And that's what concerns us today, topic what we are going to discuss. Our topic today, profile of foot soldiers of Hindutva. That's based on a story and a much longer investigation, which Muhammad Ali, who is our speaker today, he has done over a period of 1 year investigative piece, but also he worked in the area for, he worked in the Western UP. He reported from there for a couple of years. And just to introduce Muhammad, I know Muhammad from my days my days, or I think a couple of years ago, when we would together be at Jantar Mantar in Delhi and looking at uh, me organizing protests and he coming from Hindu trying to cover those protests. And we would meet and then talk about it. And Muhammad would always come and look for human stories that, okay, what are these activists, who are these activists who are coming, and make sure that going and talking with the leaders, he would also make sure that go and talk to a farmer or a worker who, or a Adivasi who has come from far off, traveling 40 hours in a crowded train and sitting here at Jantar Mantar for a couple of days and then trying to find what's driving them, why are they here, if they're protesting uh, or demanding repeal of Land Acquisition Act or demanding implementation of Forest Rights Act. So Muhammad is extremely sensitive person. He has been, he started his work with the twocircles.net. Twocircles.net, it's still there, and I think it's a very niche website which looks at the issues of communalism and focuses precisely on what's going on in India today, and some of which we will be talking about. And then he moved on to work with Hindu. He worked with them until 2018. In course of his investigation, and I think as India started changing, he realized that reporting from Delhi is fine, but what's happening on the fringes? So then he shifted to reporting from the Western UP, and Western UP is one hotbed, especially after the Muzaffarnagar riots. Things have started changing, and I think if it's also a place which was the hotbed of, we all know, in people who are in Delhi, they know it about because of the Ganna farmers protests. So a sugar belt suddenly becomes how a communal hotbed. And then in 2018, something changes, which is that the opposition candidate Tabassum Begum comes and they get defeated. So it's an area which is extremely influential. It has been an extremely influential area. So he shifted there and he started reporting from there. A number of incidents which had happened there. Mohammed is going to talk about that. In the course of investigation and work, he was threatened. There were threats to his life, and as a result, he had to finally leave the area, move to back to Delhi, and from Delhi, finally he has moved to U.S. in Columbia, where he is studying in the Columbia Journalism School. He has been offered a fellowship there.
Yeah,
He's
I finished the fellowship last year.
You finished your fellowship last
Yeah.
year, and now he's writing and writing for different websites. He was just telling us that he's doing a piece which gets translated in Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, and then he has also been interviewed by Al Jazeera. Wired is the piece where he wrote, but the New York Guardian and many other places he has been talking and trying to make sure that the voices of the work he has been doing that gets over and out in the public. So we have Muhammad today. I think the piece I just spoke about, based on his year-long work in the Western Europe, it got published in Wired, and he was just informing us that it has been read almost by 200,000 people. It has been extremely popular. There are plans of converting this into a documentary. So there is a lot more to come around that, because this is this work around the Bajrang Dal and the profile. It's one of the first which has come out in the US media around this. There are smaller pieces which are coming, but then the long feature story, this is one of the first. So I think, so that's the background to Muhammad's work and why we are here today. And we are trying to understand, because one of the things which the current regime has done, it has divided us all. It not only divided in our political leanings, but I think there is also, it has crept inside our homes. Uh, I know we are all have now family WhatsApp groups and things, and then people who are having heated discussions, relationships are breaking down. It has just infiltrated the way the politics had never infiltrated. It has always been, politics has always been part in the Indian families, but it has not been so divisive. It has not been so hateful. And I think that is what something distinguishes it from before. So this is the context in which we are talking. And every time we keep hearing about we started hearing about the lynchings 2014 onwards, and then we started seeing these horrid videos coming out from the interiors of people getting lynched or atrocities on Dalits, and the attacks which were happening, and everything is being filmed, and it's now there within minutes. It's there everywhere. It's widely available. And I think we keep wondering that what is this face of these people? Who are these people? What is driving them? What is giving them the motivation, and who are they? So I think this is what we are going to talk about. But before we go there, I think we start with, uh, yeah. So before we go there, I think we'll start with a little bit of Muhammad's own uh, uh, personal engagement into this, that how we came here, and how he came here actually, and did it take him to do the investigation, and what was it like? And I think he does mention about the Wired piece where he gets into uh, that his Muslim identity, and then hanging out with hardcore Bajrang Dal activists who are constantly planning love jihad, action against so-called love jihad, or trying to plan their next move or teaching lessons and things like that, and how your own journey through this period. So we start with that, and then we get into the profile of who are these people really. Yeah, Mohammed.
Yeah. So you, what do you want to? What do you?
I was just saying that before we get into the profile
Sorry,
of,
you want to talk about what?
I was just saying that before we look into talk about the profile of the people who are so-called foot soldiers of Hindutva. If you could take us through your own journey of this move from Delhi to Western UP, and then your own identity, where it came into, and then the work you did. If you could take us through that a bit. Hello? Hello, Muhammad, are you there? Seems
Yeah, Mohammed seems he has been
some
disconnected. So seems like an internet issue in his end.
okay, he will be back. Meanwhile, Manoj, if you could post the link to the article I was talking about in the chat box so that those who haven't read, they can.
Sure, I'll do that.
Sorry about this interruption then.
Madhuresh, this is Anu. While we're waiting,
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you in touch with someone called Harsh Kapoor in
Yes,
France?
he's in India right now.
Okay. Because, he's been in France and doing progressive work for a very, very, very long time.
Yes, I know him for ages. Hi, Muhammad. Yeah.
Right.
Hi, sorry, I think there was some internet connection problem.
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Sorry.
Did
So,
you? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, well, so as you mentioned, I was working with the Hindu, and when Modi, when Modi was planning to, to come on the national stage, I think it was the time when Siddharth got fired, sacked by the Hindu family in 2013, I think 13, yeah, before he was planning to get to his national ambitions were becoming quite apparent before he was declared prime ministerial candidate of NDA. I think that was the time when it was. As a reporter, I could feel that a change is quite palpable, but coming his sweeping elections was the main thing which made me realize that I need to also understand what's happening and why he is so popular. I think that was the main reason why I took a transfer to Western UP, because UP for me is the heartbeat, is a Hindutva heartbeat. You can actually measure the pulse of the Hindu heartland, what's happening, and entire UP. So that was the main reason why I shifted to Western UP, to understand the growth of the Hindu right, and how it's affecting the day-to-day life of people in India, the civic relations, how it's affecting that. So that was, I mean, that was the main reason why uh, I took a transfer to Western UP, and I think that led to me interacting with lots of people from Bajrang Dal, RSS, and VHP, and also in general, the Hindu, the members of Hindu middle class, because people living in urban areas in Delhi, say for example, they're still, I mean, if you want to understand who, like, the actual how people think, who are these people who support Modi, and how do they think, and how do they live, and so it was very important for me to go there. So that's how I ended up being in Meerut,
Okay.
and that led to everything.
So,
Um,
so in terms of looking at who are these foot soldiers, meaning by when we say what do they look like? Are they, what is driving them? It is just ideology, or is it that they are getting fun out of it, that they are shooting a video, that they suddenly become popular? It's the fame which is driving them. What are they? Who are these people?
So first of all, we need to understand that there is a person like Vivek Premi in rural areas. There are, in one village or in one district, one person like Vivek Premi is enough, and he's enough to gravitate and polarize people around him. He can be the center. Now, I must tell you something, that this shift in India, or North India at least, because I worked there, and it didn't happen in a day. This thing has been going on for quite some time, 4 or 5 decades at least. Bajrang Dal, especially because I remember it was established during Ram Mandir, their fight to build a Ram Mandir, and in the run-up to Babri Mosque demolition. So I think in 1984, 1991 or something, it was built. It was formed, established. And Bajrang Dal has been active for quite some time. Right now, what the situation is, especially for last, say, 10 to 15 years, that they are active in every village, every block, every subdivision of North India. Every state, like I know Madhya Pradesh is one proper, like Madhya Pradesh is the Hindutva laboratory. After Gujarat and UP, similarly Chhattisgarh. So they are active all the Hindi-speaking countries that I know, that I can confidently talk about them, because I've met people in Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. These Hindutva, VHP people. So they are so active that in every village there are some members of Bajrang Dal people, and they every Tuesday they gather in a temple, and that's where the brainwashing happens. And of course, the hook is Hindu religion, of course. So they mobilize youngsters, and they make them recite Hanuman Chalisa, and that's a meeting point for these people. Every Tuesday in every temple where these people are active, which is most of the North Indian villages. I remember this because, and they're so active, and they're so committed, they're so ideological, most of them, especially people like Premi. And once people like Premi exist, and they are enough to gravitate and mobilize and attract, thousands of people around them. So you don't need, more than one Premi in one subdivision.
Who is this Premi you are talking about?
So Vivek Premi is a resident from Shamli, Shamli town. He's a Sonar by caste. He's OBC by caste, and that's what is very interesting. He represents the Hinduization of OBC, which RSS has been working on for quite some time. His family, his grandfather was an Arya Samaji. His grandmother too was an Arya Samaji, but then they also started becoming because Arya Samaj was not exactly Hindutva, as in many ways, like they were against Murti Puja, they were against idol practices. And even till the time Chaudhary Charan Singh was active in Western UP, Arya Samaj was still had a distinctive identity, which was different from VHP, but we'll come to that when you ask me why this was the area where Tabassum won, and we'll come to that. But who is this guy? So he's a normal lower Hindu middle class man, youth, and but he's very ideological. His grooming has been very ideological. He's not one of those guys who's sincere, because I know many people in RSS and Hindutva fraternity who are motivated by their personal gains, by fame. This guy is very ideological. He doesn't care about. Of course, he likes to be famous, and that's why he let me track him. but he's also driven by substantial ideological motivations. He comes from an extremely humble family. His father works as a healer. He has this clinic where he gives medicines, and he has no training in medicine, but he gives medicines to people. And also there is, and it was very interesting for me because in that the place where he lived in Shamli, that entire lane, Muslim, lower caste Muslim, in fact, the Muslim Dalit caste, which is called Chudi Haran, the people who sell bangles, they used to live in that lane. There's a mosque right 2 houses next to his house. So that's the background that he comes from. And he studied in a Shamli school. Then he enrolled himself in an LLB course. And but then Modi's, I think he was appearing in the exams of second year of LLB, but Modi had organized a rally. He left his exams, he went to the rally and all. So, and then after that, in 2015, he was detained in NSA. Now, if you ask me what is the psychological profile of this guy, he's a boy next door, as we say. He represents the actual Hindu youth in UP. It could be anyone. It's just that his family background and also the brainwashing which happened. He spent lots of time with his grandfather, who ran an akhada, and and also there was, he studied at RSS school. So what's that? Saraswati Vidya Mandir or Saraswati Shishu Mandir, right? Yeah. So that's his background. I mean, and right now he's totally. But as he was growing, the RSS actually recognized how important he could be, because he's from OBC caste. He's not Brahmin, and that way he's also. If you look at the way he gravitates, the way he attracts youths, it's amazing. People adore him. Youngsters, elders, they look at him as someone who's going to be their next, like, someone like Modi, who is very ideologically pure. He is not into into corrupt activities, and he's very ideologically pure for them.
But then, does he have a job? Like I read your piece and it says that he moves around in a big infield bullet and all. Is this the guy also who does a job during the day and then has something, or the people who hang out with him?
He has no job. He doesn't need a job. His job is that he's a full timer. That's the thing. He has been a full timer RSS pracharak, VHP pracharak. So, and there are not many full timers. In UP, there must be about 100 full timers.
Okay.
And these full timers are those centers which actually mobilize the entire functioning of Hindutva activities in these regions. And in one district one full timer is enough to manage, because he has no job. And what they do is that a full timer, and as my piece I have written that how they converted all the dharamshalas which were built by Hindu zamindars and zamindars for Hindu pilgrims. How these dharamshalas and temples and trusts and charitable trusts, how all of these institutions, Hindu institutions, have been taken over and hijacked by VHP over a period of time, because anyway they were in dilapidated shapes, and they were taken over by antisocial elements like criminals, goons, drunkards. They'll go there and play cards and all. So over a period of time, Hindutva groups have taken over these institutions and the credibility which comes with these institutions and the resources. So they already have buildings to live. So he would live in one of these charitable trusts on upstairs, and he doesn't need to earn. So what happens is that he gets to eat in every in a new house every day. You
Okay.
know, he goes like, or he's almost like a Jain monks. You know, and then he goes, and that's how he recruits people,
Okay.
men from these houses. Because Premi told me that it's also an opportunity to meet more VHP people. What happened was that after demolition of Babri Mosque, RSS felt that we need more interaction, because VHP and Bajrang Dal, they felt that has been demonized as violent, and normal Hindu youth was a bit scared in getting associated with these groups. So they wanted more interaction with Hindu middle class. You know, so, and that's how they started going there. And so uh, from one house will feed Premi every day, and he'll go there, he'll talk to the people, he'll introduce himself, and he'll show the true character, that we are civil people, we don't, you know, we are not we are not violent and all. So that, I mean, so he doesn't need to earn. He was a full timer RSS Pracharak, and his job is to meet people entire day, and you know, be at the disposal, like, and monitor what's going on. You know, if I mean, as I've explained in the piece, that Premi runs like these several WhatsApp groups, almost, which has a multiplying effect of almost 1 million people, you know, and he's in the network of these people, and he runs. And Premi was also like, why I profile him also, because he started many practices, many interesting things. He started this idea of informers, you know, kahin pe bhi kuch ho raha hai, anything is happening anywhere. You know, like a cycle puncture mechanic,
Yeah.
you know, who works on the highways of Shamli. If he sees that, you know, there's a vehicle with bull or a cow in the back,
Yeah.
he will quickly he doesn't have to do anything. He'll drop a message in those WhatsApp group, and Premi will activate the entire, like, you know, hundreds of cadres that he has at his disposal. So it's basically almost running like a huge organization of 1,000 to 5,000 people in one district.
So Mohammed, so okay, Premi is somebody who's like a full timer and all, but then you mentioned about these young boys or others who are like at beck and call of his, and who are their members of this different. What is motivating them? Who are these people? Do they have a job? They must be having to earn something, because they're not like Premi. They need to do something regularly on a regular day basis, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give you, look at Premi's examples. The 5-6 people that who work for him, they all of them have jobs. They are either businessmen, or they are a youth studying at schools. So he basically, I mean, he takes people's help the way they could. So if there's a student, say in studying at Shamli College, his job will be to monitor if there's a Muslim boy talking to a Hindu girl. Just, you know, his antenna is alert. Or any activity which is anti-Hindu for them, anti-Hindu. It can be anything. It can be, say, a leftist student trying to, you know, talk somewhere, or you know, like, and they'll see, oh my God, a Naxal guy is recruiting more Naxals in the college. So they'll alert. They'll quickly inform the boy's parents. They'll talk to him. They'll ask him not to talk to this man. And they started doing this especially after JNU incident. You know, yeah. So and Premi was the chief of Bajrang Dal's of VHP's student wing in UP. So his job was to stay at one place, say in Ghaziabad, look at what's happening in the colleges. They started doing it especially after what happened in JNU. I mean, after the attack on JNU. So So the other
I guess
students.
I guess you're talking about the February incident when Kanhaya and others were implicated. Is that the
Yeah,
incident?
Kanhaiya, Umar, Khalid.
Yeah.
They were. I mean, when JNU was they were implicated. There was allegation of anti-India slogans. I'm talking about that. So
Okay.
RSS felt that it has ignored students.
Mhm.
Because students are studying and they don't think there has been a distrust between educated community and RSS. So they started becoming very, very active.
Okay.
So say there's the other guy. He's a businessman. He's part of Premi's wing, the group.
Mhm.
His job is to just be there in his free time, whenever. So they have to mostly. I mean, and also we're saying that we're talking about these people who are working, so they have lots of time other than work. And the polarization has been happening for quite some time now. So, and these people realize that this is their moment. This is their moment. Modi is at the center, Yogi is in the state, and this is their moment, and they can do anything they want.
So you think, so just to take this point further, so you think people like Premi, they have attracted so-called perhaps neutral, but who somehow believe in the fact that, okay, Hindus are in danger. They have
Yeah.
been indoctrinated by the constant propaganda which is going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So if, say, there was something like they had other engagements, let's say there was a sports club happening there, or if there was some other trade union activity happening, or if there was, say, some progressive cultural things being organized, or if anything else was happening, we think they would have found some engagement there. Or if TV is not enough, that they are finding some solace or some ventilation or identification with the Premi and the agenda they pursue.
Yeah, of course there's lots of, that's the thing, that there's lots of vacuum to start with in these areas. There's no alternative work for them. And also because of the brainwashing, and because they've been fed they've been peddled and fed Islamophobia for last, like, by Dainik Jagaran and Amar Ujala and Hindustan for last several decades, that they're now convinced that this is the moment for India. India is in danger. Hindus are in danger. We can't trust Muslims. Muslims are love jihadis. They don't deserve to be here. They should go back to Pakistan. And I'm not saying that everyone believes in 100% ideological thing, but to some extent, in varying degrees, these youths who are part of Premi's circle, or their Premi's cadres, in varying degrees, they believe in the Hindutva vision of India. And it didn't happen in a day. That's what I'm saying. The processes which RSS started in the 50s and 60s, or even before that, and Hindu Mahasabha, those processes are maturing now. That's what we need to understand.
It's a project where now things have come to a height.
Fruition, like, they're maturing now. The circle is complete now. So Muzaffarnagar riots, had it not happened in 2013, it would have happened next year, a year later, or a year before. So so on that note, like, for example, Western UP, how it blew. So Western UP, and I'm just giving you one example. It was we have never seen Western UP blowing like this with communal tension. Of course, historically it has been. I mean, Meerut riots happened, Hashimpura happened, Maliana happened, but Chaudhry Charan Singh had managed to forge this alliance of Jats and Muslims, and that alliance worked. I'm not saying that there was not Hindutva elements in that.
Yeah.
Part of that alliance was BKU, Bharatiya Kisan Union, and again, BKU was also communal. Like, I remember when Ram Mandir happened, and there was, at the time of there was an election at that time. So what was the head of
Henderson Tikat.
yeah, so Tikat told everyone, ki vote where, I'm forgetting that famous line he said, vote where Rama is, something like that. So even though he would not like uh, to be outwardly communal, because as part of Bharatiya Kisan Union, there were lots of Muslim Jats also, Mule Jats.
Okay.
So Chaudhry Charan Singh had managed to forge this alliance, which worked in his favor till the time he lived. And also at that time, there were also like, should I say, splinters of pro-left groups, or left, some version of leftist groups active in these areas. But as after Chaudhry Charan Singh's death, there was BKU was almost defunct, like within 5 or 10 years. There was not much activity happening, and RSS and this especially became extremely active post 1991, like post economic liberalization and also demolition of the Babri Mosque. It became very active, and that is when VHP encroached all the Arya Samaj temples, which had no idols, which had no murtis, nothing. Now those all Arya Samaj temples and buildings are have been taken over by Hindutva groups.
Yeah.
So and so that's what. So right now, and what happened was that because of VHP and RSS activities in Western UP, and they've been working like very silently. That's what I wanted to say, that they work without, with so much conviction, and I was so impressed. And that's why many people asked me that, why did you, how did they talk to you? So I literally, actually, I mean, it was 2-3 reasons. I told Premi that, look, what you're doing is very important, because it has changed the history of India. It has changed the destiny of India, and people like you have actually literally changed India and its destiny, and its coming destiny. And I want to understand why you do this and how you do this. And that is why, if you notice, I have not judged. I didn't. I of course, I mean, it took lots of me hanging around with him. I had to become a Muslim that RSS is comfortable with, a Muslim who's comfortable with being abused and Muslims being abused, and because all the time they kept on abusing Muslims in front of me, and I was silent. I had no option but to listen to their nonsense. But I was actually interested in understanding how these people work, and that's one of the reasons, why we were shocked when Modi won. We shouldn't have been shocked. Had the English and the liberal media, had they been documenting what they were doing for last 30-40 years, for us, they were butt of jokes. We reported on them when they did Valentine's Day nonsense theatrics, right? Attacking youth. So we kept on calling them fringe. These people were not fringe. They were acting, and they were very active right at the center of the Hindu mind. So that's the point now. And because they've been working among Hindus and Hindus who are living in rural India, and I mean in UP, that situation has changed now. They're not going to believe if a left group wants to go and active right now and start working there. I don't see any that they will have any credibility there. Right.
So you are saying, just to take a step back, you are saying that the vacuum which came after the decline of the Bharatiya Kisan Union, or even the left groups who were active there earlier, so there is a vacuum which has been created, and this is what they have tried to fill in. Is there, and also I guess with the Chaudhry Charan Singh example you gave, then the Ajit Singh came, and this there is a political vacuum as well, right?
Yeah. So I'm saying that these people, so there were no, like, of course, there are no ideal groups which used to work, but even in an organization like BKU never allowed, even though it followed soft Hindutva, like once in a while, it never alienated its Muslim followers. It never allowed violence to happen. So these splinter groups, these not so ideal groups, once they dismantled,
Yeah.
also because the RSS has been very active on the ground right from the very beginning, and they're so ideologically, that it every day it, what I when I reported, I was reminded of these two lines from Yeats' poem Second Coming. That while the best lack conviction, the worst are full of passionate intensity. So and I mean, they're so like ideologically convinced, and their ideological conviction is so much that Prem would tell me almost every day that Ali ji, आपको convert होना पड़ेगा. आज नहीं तो कल, हम रहे न रहे हम जिंदा रहे ना रहे, you will have to convert, even if I'm not alive. If you don't convert, your kids will have to convert if they have to live in India.
Yeah. No, so on that note, I just want to turn to the other side. So this area I also know is also, it has a big chunk of population of the Muslims. And you said earlier the politics balanced between the Jats and the Muslims. So what is going on in the Muslims there? They are youth. They are also lacking development. There is questions of unemployment. There is a lot of things. How is this vacuum impacting them? I know the Hindus are rising, but just leave them aside, what is happening with the Muslim society there? Because I think a lot of us do not understand what's going on in the psyche of the Indian Muslim there.
Well, look, I think after Modi came, there was lots of debates and kya hoga, what's happening. There was this fear, but Muslims were still feeling okay till Modi passed CAA, and once CAA happened, and in fact, that's why you must have noticed that there was no major protest before CAA. Muslims were not protesting. They were still hopeful that they'll be treated as a citizen of India, and Modi will actually, I mean, not that there was a hope, but there was no, there was still, I'd say that even if they lost hope in Modi, they felt that there is constitution. Constitution will safeguard them. There is, like, even if India is no longer secular, there is constitution. There are other people. And most of the Hindu middle class is not communal. That's what they kept on believing. But after CA, after Modi won second time, that's when the situation started changing. And after Modi passed CAA, they realized that they have nothing to lose. I mean, they have lost everything. And if they don't protest now, I mean, because they have nothing to lose anyway, they have lost everything anyway. And if they don't protest now, like they won't be able to save even their existence. So that's when they started protesting, and that's why people did not. It didn't reach many. It was not covered by media, but Western UP was one of the worst sites of crackdown by Yogi's police, and Muslims protested a lot in Bulandshahr, in Bijnor, in Muzaffarnagar, in Shamli, everywhere. Because you need to understand that Muslims in Western UP, unlike Muslims in Western UP, are very aggressive. They're not going to back down because they have the same blood which Hindus have there. If there's a Jat, there's a Mule Jat. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why Western UP sees lots of fights, because Muslims don't back down there, unlike Eastern UP, where Muslims are calmer, they're cooler by their temperament. So what Muslims are feeling right now, it's you don't want to know. I mean, they've lost hope. They have, of course, there is caste among Muslims there. So there is one privileged class which is trying to survive somehow. but the worst of the communal, the worst of Modi's, the monsters that Modi unleashed on Muslims, the worst is being felt, and the class which is affected is poor Muslims, like Riaz, the one I talked about in my Wired piece.
Tell us more about who is this Riaz you are talking about.
So Riaz is an OBC Muslim. He's his job was to he was a laborer. He's a laborer, and he is from Shamli, one mohalla of Shamli, and yeah, I mean he's uneducated. He's a class fifth dropout, and and Riaz represents 98%, 90% of Muslims in Western UP, uneducated, a dropout, but those who believe in the idea of India, those who want to push their kids into education, and they will not send their kids to madrasa, until they have no money. Like even now, I asked. I mean, I'm in touch with Riaz's family, and I somehow once in a while try to mobilize some money and send it to them from my friends and all for his medical, for his treatment. Because but Riaz is totally hopeless now. Even Riaz's younger brother is totally hopeless. They don't get jobs as much as they used to, because now they have a distinct Muslim identity. So what Modi's era has done is that Muslims are suddenly become anti-nationals. I mean, Hindus can afford to treat Muslims as anti-nationals now. Earlier, there was this feeling even in the Hindu middle class in these areas that we cannot afford to isolate and alienate them. Because one reason, it's illegal. I mean, it won't be supported by the government. It won't be supported by the other Hindus. But now, because of the larger justification of Muslim alienation, that Muslims, even though it has been happening on, Islamophobia has been peddled by Dainik Jagar and Hindi press by last 4 decades. The way they have been legitimized by the Modi government, and look at the way Tablighi Jamaat was demonized. Look at the way Muslim groups have been demonized. So now they see that, okay, so there is a justification to isolate and alienate and violently attack and discriminate Muslims. So it's okay now. And poor Muslims are feeling the worst of it. They are hopeless. They don't have work. They have been further, like poor Muslims were anyway doubly marginalized in the power structure, on day-to-day life in the society. Now they're doubly, triply marginalized. They won't get jobs. Muslim what they could have done, they could have worked as kabadi wala. That's what a normal Muslim do. They'll work as a laborer. They'll work as most of the Muslims are in unorganized sectors, because the Muslim the work which Muslims did, like kashtkari, like artisan work, they were not connected to liberalize to economic post-liberalization, capitalist structures. So what is happening is that Muslims are prone to poverty now. They're prone to say becoming poorer and further marginalized. So they won't get jobs. If a Muslim hawker, people are not buying from Muslim, vegetable sellers. They're not engaging them as a mechanic. Also, they're not selling even selling their kabadi. So the discrimination and Islamophobia has been justified and has penetrated in day-to-day life. And when I say day-to-day life, it's actually day-to-day life. It's no longer at the level of discussion and theory.
So, Mohammed, just to bring back you to the Western UP where you have been. So I know that what you just described about the Muslims engaging in these kind of different occupations. But do they also own land? And or if they were workers, if they own land, and if they were not, if they were workers, what has this done to like the breaking down of the agrarian relationship? Like if they were agricultural workers, they must be working on Hindu lands. So what is this? Because there was this whole thing about the Karana, that the Hindus have been driven away from their land is being taken over. And in any riot, the situation comes in where there's also this property, the question of resource. I mean,
Yeah. So till even after Muzaffarnagar riots, Ajit Singh was very active, because once this alliance between Muslims and Jat broke down, his political relevance was diminished. So he was very active, and till 2019 elections, he's managed to bring together all these groups and say, "Okay, we have been working for last 100 years together, and there's no point in isolating each other now." So you talked about this community relations in the context of agrarian crisis.
Yeah.
Now, so there are three things has happened. The kind of politics BJP has one. This is a larger picture which affects also the smaller pictures in Western UP. BJP is in India, at the national level as well as in every state, BJP is coming up with a caste equation which is going to ensure that RSS rules the country for next decade, next century, or at least 50 years. It's the caste alliance that BJP is forming includes non-Jatavs Dalits, non-Jat, non-Yadav OBCs, and this is and also like Brahmins and everyone else which wants to come and be a part of this of Hindu Rashtra project, and there has been a grievance against Jats and Yadavs in UP, and RSS and Amit Shah successfully managed to rope in, like for example Suhal Devs in Eastern UP. They are like a very minuscule caste, but I mean, of course, it requires like lots of time for me to describe everything. But coming back to what I'm saying is that Jats, even if they want to, because because they are the landed community in Western UP, and there is Mule Jat also. So these are upper caste. They're trying to survive somehow, but Jats have also realized that if they don't become part of the RSS project, they have everything to lose, because Modi is and RSS is empowering their enemies.
Okay.
Non-Jats OBCs and non-Yadava OBCs. That is the reason. That's one of the reasons why Yadavas and Jats are also joining RSS bandwagon, because they realize that if they don't join it now, they're going to lose. And because the narrative of Hindutva is the biggest narrative, which is subsuming all the smaller narratives.
And is that consuming Dalits also?
It's consuming Dalits as well. And also, if we talk, we should not, because caste is a very prominent factor in everything happening in India. So we can't say just Dalits. It's consuming, it is consuming Jatavas as well, because it's consuming, okay, so when it comes to Dalits and BJP, Bhangis, or should I say, we shouldn't use the word Bhangi, but sanitation workers. Sanitation workers, that caste has always been like very angry when Dalits were empowered. Jatavs were empowered by Mayawati. Mayawati patronized only her caste, Jatavs, Yeah. And Mayawati alienated other castes like Bhangis, which form the backbone of sanitation workers and people who are in manual scavenging. Now, that is the reason why Bhangis were the foot soldiers of RSS and riots post 1991. You look at any riot in Agra, in Meerut, you'll find members of this subcaste, Dalit subcaste. So there were Dalits subcaste anyway, which which were part of RSS anyway. In fact, when I was reporting from Meerut, there were this community, this Dalit caste, felt that RSS has been taking them for granted because they realize that they have nowhere to go. They will not vote for Mayawati because they have this khunnas and anger against Mayawati because Mayawati empowers only Jatabs. So they're bound to go to BJP and RSS. So they said, no, we need to be given representative. That is why Amit Shah gave, I think, two, three seats to
member of legislative assemblies
to those communities. So what I'm saying is that these communities are also realizing that if they don't become part of RSS bandwagon and Hindu Rashtra project, they have everything to lose. So the efforts to bring together, that is weakening. One. Second is that it's a complicated picture when you talked about agrarian laborers. After Muzaffarnagar riots, Muslim laborers stopped going to Hindu farms. It improved post Muzaffarnagar riots, but after 2019 and after CAA, they have started doing other things, and it's, they have nowhere to go. So, they're struggling. They're struggling to stay alive. They're struggling to survive because they don't find jobs. They're trying to do other jobs. So it's and also, like you're asking how do Hindu farmers survive? Ultimately they might hire a Muslim laborer, but that does not change anything at all.
Okay, so it's not like really making things. Just shifting a little, you talked about that how Muslims, the CAA was like the tipping point for the Muslims, and like the anger just came out and there are a lot of repression which has happened. That sounds to me like it's reactionary, that it's only as if they have reacted to what's going on. And the agency, say from 2014 until 2020, early 2020, in these 6 years, is there like some kind of churning happening there? Are they reacting? What is happening? Because I'll just tell you why I'm asking this. We know about activities, what even a smaller level activities which are being done by Hindu organizations. But are there Muslim organizations who are there? Even an NGO, even a women's group, or even anything which is there? Or is there like around some individual like Premi, around which there is some kind of conversation happening, there is some mobilization? There must be some Muslim leaders or community leaders around who...
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, so there are two things. One is, and you need to give me 5 minutes to explain this.
Yes, sure.
Look, there is no doubt that the protest against CAA was led by Muslims. I get lots of criticism when I say that the beginning, Jamia led the anti-CAA protests. Even though like, one is, if a Muslim protests, he will, what I'm saying is that when they started protesting, and if you look at who are the leaders of these protests, they're not the mainstream leaders. They're not upper caste. They're not like Sayyids. We have ordinary Muslim youths who are leading these protests, and they led everywhere.
Okay.
So what Modi has done is, and especially Yogi has done, is that they have delegitimized every. It's fascinating what Congress did with Muslim representation in the when it ruled is it never allowed a mass Muslim leader to grow and to prosper. What RSS did was that it totally delegitimized the very idea of Muslim leadership and the very existence of Muslim leadership. So every normal youth, men and women who dared to lead these protests in Bijnor, in Shamli, in Ghazipur, for example, in Eastern UP, they were arrested, they were killed, they were brutalized. So there have been lots of groups existing, but I mean, in a very informal way. So the churning has been going on. The churning still is going on. And they realize that the two things. They bluntly and frankly realized that the Hindu middle class is no longer its ally. The Hindu middle class wants to. I mean, there are lots of people who disagree with me, and they may not like what I have to say. But this is the frank reality, that for the first time, ordinary Muslims felt that their lives is they're no longer safe. Nothing can save them. Earlier their lives were not in danger, but right now, and that feeling led to even normal Muslims who didn't want to lead, who did not want to be active, who didn't want to come at the forefront. They came at the forefront and they started doing something or the other. Zaruni, it's not important that they led protest, but they started mobilizing. They started talking about it. They started saying that it's high time we need to work and we need to protest. And they did not realize that they will be brutalized in such a manner. The biggest brutality against anti-CA protesters happened in Aligarh. It happened in Bijnor. It happened in Muzaffarnagar. It happened in Aurangabad in Bihar. It happened not in big cities. It happened in kasbahs and smaller cities where Muslims realized, and there was this, moneyed Muslim class which had the guts, which had the courage. Ki no, agar hum abhi, if we don't protest now, we are done.
So you think? Yeah. So go ahead.
CAA, anti-CA also led to and also Shaheen Bagh was one bigger scale. Shaheen Bagh was the example. Who are the leaders of Shaheen Bagh? They were not the traditional upper caste Muslim leaders. They were not Sayyids. They were not OSCs. So CAA led to a Pasmanda leadership of Muslims come at the national level. Even though, and I'm very sorry to say, that the liberal elite media, especially pro-left organizations like, say, The Wire, they would still talk about Kanhaiya Kumar as a leader of CA protests. Where was Kanhaiya Kumar? Kanhaiya Kumar was not active in Jamia. Apurvanand wrote a piece for Scroll and said that the golden generation of India's youths are being brutalized by Modi. And he talked about Kanhaiya Kumar and people who were not detained and brutalized and arrested. He didn't name even one Muslim man or a woman who were brutalized by Modi. Rajputs are not going to be brutalized by Modi the way Muslims have been brutalized. And we need to understand this main factor, which Muslims understood long ago. And that's the reason why they've been alienated by even pro-left movements in India.
So you think there is not only this vacuum which is giving rise to the right, but at the same time, the alienation which is leading to a different kind of politics coming out for the Muslims. Now that brings me to another question that, so if I understand from what you are saying, that between 2014 until 20, Muslims in some ways were hoping that things will not come to that end.
Yeah. They were hoping that there is some hope. I mean, they were actually waiting they were thinking that there's a constitution. But when Modi changed, the one law, which became parts of Indian constitution, right? Now, it made even a person like me. I'm a privileged Muslim. I'm Sayyid by caste. I come from a priestly class, but even I felt what's going to happen. So just imagine when a privileged guy like me who managed to come to the United States, and I'm very privileged, I must accept my entitlements. But just imagine what a poor Muslim must have gone through and what a poor Muslim goes through on daily basis. So, because, Premi didn't do anything with me because he knows that he can't kill me because I'm very privileged. I live in the United States. I work with the Hindu. He can't touch me, but he knows that he can touch a normal poor Muslim. And he does that. He brutalizes normal Muslims on daily basis, directly or indirectly.
So, okay. Now, this is like, so Hindus, Muslims, and is that from here on, if we look ahead, Is the politics only going to be looking like in the area which you have worked in the Western UP? There is no signs of reconciliation, or if it can, how will that happen? Or is it only going to be so divided in terms of like, there is this Premi, there is this Riaz who is the victim, and so is it going to be like that? Or is that just why I'm probing this? Because in 2018, there was some glimmer of hope when the joint candidate was put up. I know that and Tabassum won from the Lok Sabha by-elections.
Yeah.
And I know this doesn't change things on the ground, that at the top, political parties come together and all this happens. But does this coming has some like churning within? Because it's not that the whole, I find it hard to believe that the whole Hindu section which is there has completely has bought in by this. And the whole Muslims who have just accepted.
I'm not saying that every Hindu believes in Modi's propaganda.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that all Hindus are communal. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that increasingly, the RSS Hindu Rashtra project has gained such credibility and belief and conviction, and also the way they are functioning. What they have done is that even they have made even the secular Hindus indispensable, irrelevant to what's happening right now.
Okay.
So at least, it's like that. I mean, as I said, as I repeated Yeats' lines, that the best lack conviction and the worst are full of passionate intensity. So there are people, best people, even in the majority community, but they lack conviction. They don't have the courage to take on and to mobilize. And that's what I have been telling people everywhere I speak, that Shaheen Bagh is okay, but don't go to Shaheen Bagh and say that we are your allies. And this I told, if Hindus want to oppose CA, there has to be Shaheen Bagh in Safdarjung, in Sarvesh Colony, in Sarita Vihar,
Yeah.
So we need until Hindus disown Modi, nothing. I mean, especially the Hindu middle class disowns Modi, and upper caste disowns Modi. Nothing is going to change, and even the attempt to reconcile is not going to succeed.
Okay, so just related. Okay, so I see that it's going to be like this for a while, and
I in the short term, I see no hope.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a very optimistic guy, and I continue to have hope. But right now, I don't see any hope in the short term, at least. In the long term, even if Congress wins, the society, India as a society, and I'm talking about lower middle class Hindus and upper middle class Hindus, has shifted to the right. This is one. And Bajrang Dal is no longer fringe. We need to accept that. Till the time we don't accept it, till the time we continue to think that, okay, no, it's good. There is some hope. There's no hope in the short term. India has gone way past, very dangerous miles and signposts.
Okay. Just there is a question which Amritesh.
Yeah. Let's take up the questions also we
have already addressed some of the questions which came in, so I already integrated that into our conversation. There is this thing about, you're talking about the North India and how this is happening. We all know that the Karnataka is also a hotbed of the rise of Hindutva, and it has been a laboratory.
Coastal Karnataka is the main hotbed.
Yeah. So do you see any similarities, or like, are there any specific ways in which lower castes are being mobilized in Karnataka? You have done some work around that. And if you can draw parallels between them.
I mean, if you want me to, what?
Can you comment on the comparative dynamics of Hindutva right-wingers functioning in a northern state like Western UP, what you just talked, and then a southern state like Karnataka, where there is a comparatively more influence even in the village areas? So I think similar phenomena are happening, but have you done some kind of a comparative?
No, I didn't. I have not worked in South India, but I've read some books like by Dhiren Jha's book on Bajrang Dal. I mean, it's a very like, I mean, we need more serious work on the Hindu right in South India. But what surprises me, uh, even if we leave the Hindu right groups, the state, the state in South India, especially Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka,
Yeah.
is so communal. The police machinery is so communal. It shocks me, because what happens is that on day-to-day level, police is the enabler of the functioning of Hindutva organizations. If police
Even though in Andhra Pradesh there is a different political party ruling.
Exactly, but look at the way they do encounters.
Mm-hmm.
It's so shocking. And they look at the way functioning and the violence against minorities and empowered and disempowered groups by the state, by the police, and look at the communal elements in the police. I mean, if anyone wants to understand, there's a book by Umar Khalidi, Khaki and Ethnic Violence. You should read that, how how the police was, and he gives a historical perspective post partition. It's one of the classics. It's published by Oxford I think Oxford Publishing House. Yeah. So one is that the state machinery. The second is that if you look at coastal Karnataka, there was a time, especially I'm sorry, I'm talking about the times when BJP didn't come in power, in Karnataka. They were very active.
Yeah.
But their involvement was still limited to coastal Karnataka. But from the time when BJP came for the first time, I think that was 10 years ago, when Yediyurappa became chief minister.
Much more, in fact, they have been in power for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. When the point is that when secular parties, like, look at the phenomena that JDS came with BJP and form a government. So the thing is that secular parties enabled the rise of the Hindu right, and they don't do anything. Like they because they have always worked on culture, education. So even in Nitish Kumar's government, the culture minister will be from BJP.
Yeah.
The education minister will also be from BJP. Or even if they're not, I mean, Nitish Kumar is anyway it's demolished, it's totally discredited in Bihar. But I'm just saying that how secular parties enable the Hindu right, and that actually is felt on the ground, that enables and that encourages the militant and violent armies of the Hindu right to run amok in villages. And nothing is going to happen because they are in power. So there has been a very disturbing rise of RSS and VHP in Karnataka, and it is no longer limited to coastal Karnataka as it used to be.
It's everywhere now.
It's everywhere. Yeah. They have become they have gained a mainstream currency now.
Okay.
And at all levels, they have penetrated every formal and informal state agencies.
And I think perhaps that's the reason behind where Tejasvi Surya can get away. He's a Bangalore MP, but he can get away.
Just look at him. Yeah. Look at him. I mean, and even look at the way that MLA. Say, I'm talking about Andhra Pradesh now. Look at that MLA from what's his name, Raja. Raja Singh, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look at him and the way Facebook defended him. This Facebook executive.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That there was a time when Raja Singh was treated as a fringe even by Facebook, but now Raja Singh is not fringe. Raja Singh is the legitimate Hindu voice, and a Facebook executive thinks that it will alienate Hindus.
So that we need to listen to them.
there's also market dynamics. There's also a larger, market dynamics. There's also this thing that we are going to alienate Hindus. Why? Why Facebook thinks that that censoring Raja Singh's hate mongering will alienate Muslims, will alienate Hindus? Because it will. Because they're actually the Hindutva is no longer the fringe. It's mainstream Hindu voice now. At least a section of the Hindu voice. Majority section.
There is
let's take more.
No, I'm just coming to that. So there's this economic question, that there is this economic crisis happening, and it's like, in some way they say that whenever there is economic crisis coming in, then there is a rightward shift. In some ways it can be explained around that also. But is that radicalization also happening within? Why is it only happening in Hindus, not in Muslims, or anybody else is not getting radicalized? Why are they not getting rightward?
Muslim radicalization. Now is the time which is very fertile ground for the right wingers to recruit Muslim youths. Muslims were not radicalized before. The Indian Mujahideen was essentially created by Indian Intelligence Bureau. I mean, where are all these blasts? No blast is happening right now. So who was organizing these blasts?
Okay.
So now 2 questions. One is that the unemployment among Hindu youths is another very unemployment. The larger unemployment is another recruiting ground for these youths by people like Premi, because what they see is that, okay, even if they start working, even if they don't, even if they are they have small, they do a small job, part-time job, and they're not part of RSS. What they realize is that once they become part of RSS, it will lead them to become a structure of larger power. RSS is running this country now, and they realize that. They realize the very moment Premi was rescued by the Home Ministry. So they realize that even, okay, so if we join RSS, so what will it do? We'll be famous. We'll get reported by Direct Jagran. You don't have to work. You don't have to do you don't have to start worrying about work anymore. You don't have to. I mean, there will be some work. The idea is that rather than just being unemployed, it's much better to be associated with powerful structures and then be unemployed. So they're coming under RSS umbrella because they realize that RSS is the powerhouse which is running the country, and it will rescue them from every disease, from unemployment and everything. Now, I'll tell you a very brief anecdote. When after demonetization, the way demonetization destroyed Indian economy and all these small industries in Meerut, like Meerut has sports industry, Meerut has brass industry,
yes,
and it was also brass was exported outside the country. Now demonetization totally destroyed it, and lots of baniyas, Hindu baniyas, told me that Ali ji, hum vote nahi denge BJP ko. Okay. And not only that, they said, and I'm sorry, I'm switching to Hindi, but that's the fun part. They said, हम बूथ में ही नहीं जाएंगे. अगर हम बूथ में जाएंगे ना, तो कमल ही कमल दिखेगा हमको. कमल दिखेगा दिमाग में, तो हम वोट दे देंगे मोदी जी को. हम जाएंगे ही नहीं. That's what not one, thousands of baniyas told me that we will not even go to booths. But did that happen? No, it didn't happen.
Okay.
Because there's the enemy of Musliman, like the way Chaudhary said, Sudhir Chaudhary, that people in Delhi don't care that Mughlon ka Raj ho jayega. That by voting Aam Aadmi Party, they are enabling Mughlon ka Raj. So finally, everyone joins the Hindu bandwagon. They realize in the last moment, few hours before the voting, baniyas who were so much against Modi, and because it destroyed the economy.
But they continue to somehow find ways to.
They still favor, and they realize that nothing matters now. And so, everyone, I bought a flat in Vaishali. and it has been so devalued that, I don't know what to do with it. And every time I'll try to put it's the rent was, when I bought it in 2014, was 13,500. Now the rent I get is 12,000,
There's economic
and
crisis.
yeah. And let me tell you just briefly that, so the rent broker, the property broker, is Hindu middle class, okay, and he will abuse a lot Modi. But but now, the last year when I went to India, he said, Ali ji, don't worry. In the next term, this term Modi ji could not develop India because there were lots of people who didn't believe in his agenda. Now that we have gained and come to power, the people who did not believe in his agenda are going to finally believe, and then we will grow together. Then we will grow India's economy together.
Well, we know what is happening now. There's another question Anvesha is asking, that what do you think can convince the lower or the middle class Hindu to denounce Modi? What kind of political projections? They think India is the only place for Hindus, and the global existence of Hindus are threatened by Muslims. For majority of them, it's not only a within India thing, and they would buy anything, even violence. Humanitarian arguments won't work if the Hindi community keep being convinced about a threat to them.
What do you think can convince the lower middle class Hindus to denounce Modi? What kind of political projections? I think India is the only place for Hindus, and for majority of them, it's not only within India thing, and humanitarian arguments won't work if the Hindu community keep convinced about it. Yeah. So see, the thing is exactly. I mean, Anvesha has hit the crux of this thing. The entire, if there's one line which which sums up the RSS work, is this: the Hindus are in danger. That's one line which and that is what drives Premi, that's what drives these youths, and that's what drives not only these, I mean, I'll briefly give you one example. When I came to New York, I dated one Indian American doctor, and her father used to be part of Naxalbari movement. He was a doctor in Bengal. Now they came to India. They came to United States, and just imagine this left cadre, the person who was active in left movement and Naxalbari movement in the 70s and 80s. Now he's turned totally, when he's living in the Bay Area, he's totally pro Modi. And she messaged me that, because your story has led to many fights in my family WhatsApp group. What have you done? So this is a transformation. And people living here, educated people, they think that Modi is doing right. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of political projections it's going to take. Because a community which feels besieged, I don't know what's the solution. I'm I don't know. I'm at loss. I mean, I haven't read enough. I don't know. I mean, I think only philosophers and writers, like, could answer this, because I feel that till the time the Hindus they don't stop feeling. I mean, until they feel besieged and under attack, the situation is not going to change. Mm-hmm. And I don't see that happening, because they continue to feel besieged, because the RSS has only this. So they think that the centuries of suppression and oppression and rapes and plundering which Muslims did with Hindu civilization, now is the time to avenge that. And they think that they don't go by these arguments like demonetization destroyed Indian economy. They talk about larger civilization fight between Indic civilization and Islamic Abrahamic faiths. So for them, this is a civilizational fight. This is a civilizational moment which Hindus have to seize. They're not going by economy. I mean, the educated ones I'm talking about. Okay. The ideological ones. Mm-hmm. They don't think about economy. Economy is like they're saying, okay, there's an economic crisis the world over. What will Modi do? Mm-hmm. We have to seize the civilizational moment which has come to us. We have to seize this moment. And this is the moment to seize. And Modi is our best hope.
So it's not the economic questions which perhaps in some ways will drive people to stop voting, but somewhere the cultural questions. And you think that's the
main cultural question.
You think that's the reason that a lot of opposition political parties, let's look at the Aam Aadmi Party or even Indian National Congress, that everybody is trying to appeal to that? Is precisely that's understanding which is driving them?
I mean, look, economic Aam Aadmi Party, I mean, Kapil Mishra represents everything which was worst with Aam Aadmi Party. I don't want to write this because I have many friends with Aam Aadmi Party and they'll get mad with me. But sometimes I feel like, sometimes I get so angry that you have no idea, Madhuresh, you know, it's, I mean, because Aam Aadmi Party, I reported on Aam Aadmi Party since its inception, when it was formed in 2012 for the Hindu. And they kept on saying, we are a solution-based party, you know, that's a line. We don't have any ideology. Our ideology is a solution. We are looking at the
post-ideology party. Post-ideology party. It's a technical.
But what happened? Kapil Mishra is the product of not BJP. Kapil Mishra is the product of Aam Aadmi Party. The kind of politics that Kapil Mishra is doing, it was facilitated by Aam Aadmi Party. You go and listen to his speeches when he was with Aam Aadmi Party. There was not even a shred of communalism in his speeches. Where is this communalism coming from? It was contained within the kind of politics that Aam Aadmi Party does. And that is why Aam Aadmi Party is not attacking the cultural agenda of BJP. They favor Ram Mandir, they favor everything. You know, and they also know that we cannot attack cultural items of BJP because our voters is the same. Even at the time when Arvind won, when Kejriwal won, 66%, if I'm not wrong, were those people who wanted Arvind as a chief minister and Modi as a prime minister. It was in Yogendra Yadav's surveys, party surveys. So, answer to your question: until the time we delegitimize RSS as the owner of Hindu project, because most of the Hindus do not see any difference between Hinduism and Hindutva.
Okay.
They think, I mean, we would think that they know, but they don't. In fact, they think that Hindutva, there's nothing wrong with Hindutva because it's political Hinduism. So that is why we have to not only attack Hindutva, we have to delegitimize RSS as the successor or the representative of Hinduism. And I have no answer to this question by Anvesh. I don't know. I mean, you know, what will be, because at the level of politics, I don't see until we tell Hindus that, look, your existence is not under threat. Until that propaganda is countered, and I don't know how to counter that propaganda. I mean, probably, political theorists and scientists will have an answer to that. I'm just saying what I saw.
There is a question regarding what do you think about the widespread use of a draconian legislation like the UAPA to target those protesting the CAA, etc. Anu wants to know that.
What do you think about the widespread use of a draconian legislation like the UAPA to
target those protesting the CAA?
I mean, what can you think? I mean, it's so hopeless. Like, I mean, it's okay. So the way, what was the fault of Dr. Kafil? He didn't say anything anti-illegal. He didn't even say anything anti-Modi. He said one word, one line against Amit Shah. That was his fault. So right now, the kind of politics that BJP is doing is to delegitimize the idea of protest. Protest is no longer legal. If you protest, and especially if you're Muslim, you'll be seen as a pro-Pakistani, you'll be seen as anti-India. So and that's what they want to do. They want to scare people, Muslims, that we are going to crush you, and we are going to crush you like never before. You know,
So, Mohammed, this brings me to the question, because you said pro-Pakistan and this. That there is one of the comments which came in is that I talked to you earlier about if the radicalization was also happening within the Muslim youth, that if they were getting radicalized in some form. And you did say that it's not happening, and that there is a different kind of a political awakening happening. But there is this thing about that, how Manoj has mentioned that how Muslims now, earlier it used to be Ramazan, now it's Ramadan. So there is an influence from the, say, Middle East. Somewhere there is some kind of influence which is coming in, and I don't know if you have tracked that.
Okay.
And also there is question of money, and also if you look at the CAA, the way the Organization of Islamic Countries, they came in, and there is a big protest coming from their side. So what do you think of what is happening there?
Okay, so there are two things. One is that Ramadan is no longer nothing new. Okay,
Yeah.
Saudi, there's this larger project. That's another time to talk about the Saudi, how Saudi after invested petrodollar in Wahhabi community, and Wahhabi spreaded Wahhabi Islam in India. And the idea was that to push puritanical version of Islam, we have to be like Saudi Muslims to be a better Muslim. That was the main idea. We have to be like Wahhabi Muslim to be a Muslim. So Wahhabi Islam delegitimizes other versions of Islam, cultural portions of Islam. While there are evidence from Prophet's life that Prophet legitimized and acknowledged alternative cultures by Muslims. So what was happening was that new people were converting into Islam, and they had their own culture. But Prophet never delegitimized their own cultures. He talked about making them feel welcomed within Islam, and that's why he, in fact, that's when Prophet went from Makkah to Medina, women were playing dafli, to encourage, to welcome, and there were lots of Muslims who felt, this is anti-Islam. He didn't stop it. He said, no, let them do it. It's part of the culture. It's part of the larger celebration. So Wahhabi Islam delegitimizes, and this project which you're talking about is there's nothing new about it. Okay.
This
so
is
so it has been going on. The other is increasing visibility of Muslim symbols in public sphere. So after every riots, you will find, because this is a phenomena that minorities feel threatened. Every time there's a violent attack, like even though NRIs, they're so close to their culture, they'll do puja, they'll do everything in United States to feel close to their culture, because they're a minority here. Now, if Muslims do this, we cannot call it radicalization. But certainly, when they are pushed by violent attacks, they go back to the things that make them feel close to their identity, because they're being killed and beaten and brutalized for their identity.
Okay.
That's what this writer said. No, when he was leaving for Pakistan, this writer who wrote Tauba Tek Singh, I'm forgetting his name. Manto. He said that I may not be Muslim, but I'm Muslim enough to be killed. So even a non-practicing Muslim like me, who drinks and who does all sorts of un-Islamic thing, will be killed. So it's an attempt by Muslims to feel relevant, to find something meaningful, or to feel because they're being attacked for being Muslims.
Their identity is
under attack. So they go closer to their identity. It is not radicalization.
Okay.
We need to understand that this is not radicalization, because you're not leaving them any choice. You're pushing them back. You're ghettoizing them. Where will they go? Once you don't give them houses to live in Rohini, so where will they go? I mean, I did one story in 2012, that housing apartheid in Delhi.
Mhm.
And I mean, it became very famous because, and I did not talk to any Muslim for this story. It was an investigative story. I took an audio recorder. I took one in turn, and I told her that we will have to pretend like a Muslim, newly married Muslim couple, you know. And we went to all these upper caste colonies in Rohini, Vasant Kunj, and most of the areas they didn't give us houses. And and so I recorded people who do this, because I don't believe in victimhood, like this Muslims victim bashing. Oh, hum mujhe ghar nahi milta, you know, we are.
Yeah.
I wanted to record people who practice this, and their motivation. Rohini, the tenant said, the broker said, sir, आप तो मुसलमान हैं, आपको छोड़िए, यहाँ लोअर कास्ट को घर नहीं मिलेगा, ब्राह्मण्स को घर मिलता है सिर्फ यहाँ पे, you know. So the
So
point
deep.
is,
It's so deep. It's just not about that.
yeah, it's not only about, so Muslim, because you are attacking for them for being a Muslim, you're delegitimizing their citizenship. Where do you expect them? They'll go. But that is not radicalization. Now,
No.
one is this. Second is, of course, PFI. We have to talk about South, Muslims in South, in Kerala, for example. Yeah. They are, of course, they have, and once we talk about PFI, we have to talk two things. We have to talk about Jamaat Islami, which used to be actually a political, which used to be an Islamist organization, which did not recognize Indian state for the longest time. Because Jamaat Islami, which follows political Islam, talks about spreading Islam on the land of God, almost like an evangelical, but they are political as well. Mm-hmm. But even Jamaat Islami had to evolve. And Jamaat Islami, that is why established this political party called Welfare Party of India, because they started believing in democracy, Indian democracy. You know, so they're not an anti-India group. Even PFI is not an anti-India group. They're assertive, you know, but so, and they're also assertive because Kerala, and especially South India, has a culture of political violence. And so in that culture, a larger vicious cycle of political violence, Muslims didn't have any muscle power. PFI provides that muscle power to counter. And that is the reason every person who was a source of Muslim, say, pride, Muslim aggression, they have been delegitimized as anti-national, as terrorists, be it PFI in South India or Mukhtar Ansari in Eastern UP. Because Mukhtar Ansari, why was Mukhtar Ansari was relevant to Muslims? Because he gave them, every time there used to be riots, Muslims in his area were protected. Because, even the RSS did not dare attack Muslims where Mukhtar Ansari is active. So, there is this larger idea. I mean, one can debate whether they are goons or they are not goons. But the point is that they also represent, they give muscle power to Muslims.
It's like you have to defend yourself.
One is, to defend oneself. And last point on this question, that in Delhi riots, why it became like very vicious? Because in certain areas, Muslims defended. See, RSS has no problem with attacking Muslims, but the moment they defend themselves, it becomes really vicious. And then it becomes like, we have to crush Muslims, because Muslims should not be able to defend themselves. That's the point. Muslims should not raise their voice. And that is the idea of delegitimizing and using UAPA to counter every Muslim, and not only every Muslim. I mean, I must accept that even those who are defending, who talk about, who are their allies, they will be used as the same. As Golwalkar said, that the worst enemies of Hindus are not British, but Muslims, Christians, and those who talk like them. including Hindus. And that's what Premi also was telling me, that the Naxals and the Hindus who talk anti-Hindu, they are the first ones we need to deal with.
So it's us who is the enemy as well, apart from.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know,
So,
Muhammad.
so there's a difference between radicalization. I mean, I am not saying that Muslims are not radicalized, but I'm saying that just because they started wearing burqa doesn't mean that they're radical. Left has this misconception, and many people in the left fraternity has this, because they have not taken into account how religion is important. They've totally lost the plot. And that's one of the reasons why RSS is in every Hindu home, because left did not account religion and the important and the crucial. I mean, religion is in the blood and bones of North India and India. How can you not take?
You're right. I think that's a key debate which is happening now in the West Bengal, when I think where the BJP is majorly investing and trying to. I know it's late. It's late, and we have been there for a long time. I just want to that we have started from the Hindus, but I think you cannot just begin to talk about Hindutva foot soldiers unless you talk about Muslims, and that's the reason I wanted to bring in this dynamics and talk about it. Just going forward, so your Wired piece managed to raise debate internationally. It has managed to start a conversation around Bajrang Dal and others. What's after that? What's happening in your own trajectory, or how do you see what kind of reception the Wired piece has received, and what's next for you personally?
I want to say something. Yeah, I mean, for personally, like I'm based out of the United States now. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Anvesha is saying. The problem is that the leftist line is based on economic materialistic conditioning. It's difficult to bring people together on the basis of purely materialistic argument when people are divided by racial or religious ideology. Yeah. So personally, like I've just started my career as an independent writer. I'm working on a book on India. It's basically I picked up one of the first lynchings. And I'm trying to explain what happened wrong with India. Like India, which was a major growth story also. And people used to talk about India's story because it was a major market, it was a great economy, and not only a great economy, it was also a great, also a big democracy, like one of the largest secular, liberal, pluralistic democracy. And people used to talk about it 10 years ago. Now, what happened now? So I'm working on a non-fiction book, which trying to explain, and it's not my own writing. It's not essays, but it's a reporting book. So I'm working on that book. Then also like the Wired piece is being Condé Nast has a documentary division in LA. They're converting this Wired piece into a documentary, which will look at the at Premi's rise and also evolution of the Hindu right, and also their ideological moorings. So another is that. That's all. I mean, and give me work if you have. I am unemployed. Any kind of work that you think I can do.
Sure.
So, but I mean, and last thing I want to say is that I'm not, I'm not saying, I remember I'm saying this because when the Wired piece came out, a very good friend of mine, and someone I really, really respect, admire, Anand Patwardhan, wrote me a mail that, there's a line in my piece that even the secular Muslims, even the secular Hindus, they were late in recognizing the growth of Hindu right. And he says that, how can you say that? We have been fighting, and I totally accept what he said. But the point is that there's one is secular Hindus and the one is liberal Hindus. Not all liberal Hindus are secular. Okay, and this is communalism has become a part of Hindu psyche to the extent that I have no hesitation in saying that even a Marxist and leftist Hindu in North India is slightly communal, because North Indian life is so like the communalism and communal elements and communal logics are so ingrained in North Indian lifestyle and North Indian Hindu psyche because of the larger RSS work and Hindi newspapers and the state of last 50, 60 years, that people think like that and they do not know that what they think is Islamophobic, you know.
Yeah.
But I also acknowledge the work that left has done and the work that people's movements and various groups,
Yeah.
you know, in the larger left umbrella has done.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah,
I think we have.
Thank you everyone. You're
Right.
portraying RSS as a malevolent force, but what do you think of the elements of love and adoration that they also exhibit with respect to, say, the young people's relationship with Premi? What does it mean? You're portraying. But what do you think of the elements of love and adoration that they also exhibit with respect? Yeah, I mean, the point is that they. This is Dunu's question.
Mhm.
See, because he's so ideologically pure that that youngsters want to be like him, because it's also okay. It's also romantic. It's like Hindu Yodha, someone who's very pure. He doesn't drink. He does not smoke. He's not corrupt. Someone who can follow the footpaths, the footsteps of Ram and Bajrang Bali. You know, okay. Last thing I would say that
Yes.
Bajrang Bali in the caste framework, Bajrang Dal is for OBC Hindus. RSS is for Brahmins. So this is also caste logic. So Bajrang Dal was also larger brainstorming and brainwashing platform for OBC Hindus. So a large number of Hindus are part of it. So and that's what RSS, at least RSS, because Modi is OBC, but at least RSS envisions this culture, this power hierarchy, that Rama will be Brahmin, but his slave will be OBC. The foot soldiers will be OBC, who have so much loyalty that they'll you know, tear apart their chest. What Hanuman did, right? So that is the main thing, and that is why, I mean, there's lots of romanticism around Premi, that, you know, he's that Yodha, he's that, you know, and he can actually sacrifice his life for a Brahmin, for larger RSS ambitions.
Talking of which, sorry, because I don't know, people, it's like, but is Premi acting alone? Like, what is the structure in which they receive command and the order? What is the hierarchy in which they
No,
work?
it's highly centralized. It's
Okay,
highly centralized. So the full-time pracharaks of say, okay, so RSS has divided UP into 3 states. Okay, Western UP is part of Western UP is also part of Dehradun. I mean the hilly states also. So RSS pracharaks, full-time pracharaks, meet once in a week. Once in a month.
once in a month. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes the meetings happen in Ghaziabad, in Muzaffarnagar. Sometimes the meeting happens in Delhi. This is highly centralized, and also, you know, if you look at their activities, keep on happening. There's something happening every week at a very highly centralized level. It can be the arms training, which happens in every season, in summers, winters, spring. You know, every season there has to be an arms training. And arms training happens at regional level, at state level, at national level. You know, so it's a highly centralized thing. And right now, when India is being ruled by RSS, everyone has come together. The coordination of RSS and BJP was never this great, because now everyone thinks that this is the time we have to work together and we have to seize this moment. So that is why Premi, you know, his transition from RSS, from VHP to BJP, he's now he wants to contest elections in 2022 assembly polls, And I won't be surprised if he wins and he'll be a state level minister in Yogi cabinet in the next government.
Okay. So there is
So-
like this whole machinery which is there, highly coordinated, centralized, and it's working, and
it's like, it's very scary, Madhuresh. I
and,
mean,
and they have campaigns coming up so there are local campaigns, state level campaigns, because I know you
yeah,
did talk about that, how
exactly.
they're focused on
It's
love jihad.
it's okay. So now they have stopped the campaigns against cow slaughter in UP, like the way they were active, because like the way Golwalkar and the way what's his name, the first the guy who was also a member of Indira Gandhi's committee,
Mukherjee.
cow slaughter. No, not Mukherjee. I
Somebody-
think the other guy, the veterinarian, the fat guy. He or Golwalkar. I think Golwalkar was part of. No, or Golwalkar was alive. Anyway, so he was part of. He was part of Indira Gandhi formed this committee after I think few saints were killed at Jantar Mantar or somewhere in during the protest. Indira Gandhi had formed a committee to analyze if cow slaughter should be banned. Now, the way he said that cow slaughter was more, I mean, cow slaughter was more an instrument to mobilize Hindus under one platform, because caste is such a big factor that they don't have any other instrument. Cow becomes, and that is why cow is important for them, and that is the reason why that increasingly they also try to stop OBCs from eating meat and stopping Dalits from eating beef, you know. So and this happens. So now now there's no, of course they monitor everything, but actively they have stopped the cow slaughter campaigns. They work on love jihad thing, because they want to delegitimize. Okay, now what happens is that when Hindus and Muslims will live together, they'll fall in love as well, right? Now, when communities live together, they fall in love. They hate each other. They love each other, and that is why now what they want to do is that they want to crack and break every points of communication between Hindus and Muslims at all levels, urban levels, rural levels, in kasbas, everywhere. And love jihad does that very perfectly, because it creates a distrust among Hindus about Muslim men and about Muslims, that because hamari asmita chali jayegi, are like the women of our homes who represent our izzat, you know, so they're falling. So that's so and these things happen because they're so active. They're so active on WhatsApp, you know.
Yeah.
So these campaigns happen all the time. It's not that they're active when they meet. They all the time. The full-time pracharak's job is precisely this: to run these things smoothly all the time. Like I met Premi, and at that time one Dalit man came, old man, and said, okay, you know, there are some Christians coming in our settlements. What are you guys doing? And quickly you know, he wrote a WhatsApp message in his group, and they go there, and that's being taken care of. And now that even the police is part of it, the state, in BJP ruled state, there's no difference between RSS and police. Police is in fact, police, BJP and RSS and Bajrang Dal is the should I say what, coordinating agency.
Like, so it's like
yeah. So police is the peddler of Islam, of RSS agenda now.
Okay.
So that's
okay.
the reason why I have no hope in the short term. And I'm sorry to be, I don't want to sound so pessimistic, but if that's the situation, I'm sorry to say this.
Thanks, Mohammad. I think it has been really fascinating just hearing and knowing. I know there are a lot of issues. I just will point out that Anu has shared a petition on indiacivilwatch.org. There's a petition to sign about the Facebook's complicity with the Hindu right. There's a map which has been shared by Anvesa on a Twitter threads. Please look into the chat. And I'll say thank you, everyone. Indian Alliance Paris, we keep organizing these chats. We had a talk on Kashmir there, this, and we soon will be talking about Nagaland and exploring further some of the questions which came from this. So please do look at our Facebook page and look there, and it's happy to have you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening to my rants. And
No, it has been fascinating. Thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Thanks for staying that late. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madhuresh, for organizing this. You're very kind and sweet.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
And let's be in touch. Like
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Wait, let me just write my Twitter.
Yeah.
That's my Twitter handle, Hindu Reporter. And that's what the RSS guy said. You're a bloody jihadi reporter. You have to change your handle. You're not a Hindu reporter. Yeah. And also, like, there was this question by, I think, Aradhita, that do you think that this Thali Bajao Diya Jalao has been used to mark people? So one last thing I'm going to say, that what Modi does, it is to reinforce his own, that if people are still together, is still following me. And Thali Bajao was one, this thing. It was almost Nazi in its, it was a Nazi kind of campaign and movement, a decision to do, like, that it was like beating for the dictator, for Hitler. So yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye. Good night.
Good night.